Hey, come on in. Come on in. It's Principal on the Come Up time. Just come on in. Hope you got tagged. We've been talking about lots of things over the weekend on Principals on the Come Up. We want to welcome all of our new members of Principal on the Come Up so that you can see exactly what we're doing and so that you can take part in all the things that we are learning here on Principals on the Come Up, our Facebook group. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is smart strategies to retain highly qualified educators. This is a follow-up to last week. Hey, Anthony. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at three things. We're going to be looking at strategically placing your educators based on student need and teacher strength. That's the first thing that we'll be looking at as a strategy to retain your highly qualified educators. The second thing that we're going to be looking at is have strong grade level and content area teams in place. And the third thing is to have preferred substitutes recruited and retained. So how do I know all of this? Well, I had the opportunity to be chosen by the state of Texas to go into low-performing schools and turn those schools around. I was chosen to go to the Harvard Graduate School of Education, the Urban Institute program, to learn how to turn our schools into success stories. Isn't that what we want? We want success stories. So before we talk about smart strategies to retain our highly qualified educators, let me talk about what we just kind of do a review of what we did last week. So last week we were talking about recruiting. We were talking about recruiting, selecting, assigning, have an induction process, and retaining your staff. Retaining your staff. So what we are concerned about and what is so concerning to me is that the topic that really, really touched everybody last week was the permanent substitutes. All right, so let's just do a quick review now on those permanent substitute issues, because we were talking about recruiting highly qualified teachers. And unless you have been somewhere under a rock, you know that we need some highly qualified substitutes. And I did receive a call from a substitute teacher, one who had been a substitute in a school for at least 2 years, full time. So that means that when we have these substitute teachers, I mean, they're just like part of the faculty. You know, we expect the same thing from them. Most of them are degreed. Most of them, they love what they're doing. And the problem that they're substitutes is because a lot of them just can't pass that state exam. And, you know, for those who did pass the state exam, they say, oh, Lord, thank you, Jesus, I passed it. But, you know, everybody can't pass that test, but they love teaching. So you are a teacher, you are a principal, assistant principal in a school that is an urban school, a school of color, a school that has low test scores. It's hard for you to get teachers to want to come there. That's just the way it is. So what do? You get good permanent substitutes. So all I want to emphasize today is treat those substitutes with respect. You know, a good substitute is like having a good group of students in your classroom. You remember those good group of students? You remember all the good ones? No, you don't. You do not remember the good ones. You remember the ones that cut up. You remember the ones you had to write referrals for. A good substitute is like those little quiet ones. They come in, they take care of their business, they know what to do. They're there on time. They check out on time. Some of them put in extra time, and they don't get paid for it. They're not under contract. They don't get any benefits. If they don't show up, guess what? They don't get paid. Unlike, a regular substitute, a regular teacher, if they don't show up, they have their sick leave, or they have other kind of benefits that will cover their pay. And remember, permanent substitutes, they don't get paid that much, but they love what they do. They go the extra mile. So what I'm saying to you, as I said last week, look for your permanent substitutes. Take care of those permanent substitutes. If you know that you have a subject area, for example, if it's science and it's very hard to find science teachers, and you have put a permanent substitute in that spot, I'm telling you, keep that permanent substitute in the loop. Let them know that you are required by law to interview for the position if you get anybody who's interested in that position. But let them know on a orderly basis how things are coming, because they have a life too. They have bills to pay as well. But if they know that they can depend on you to think about them and have them in that spot, then that's what you need to do. I've heard stories of some permanent substitutes being in position for 5 years, some 8 years, 10 years. That's right. That's right. They have taught everything in the school. They have done any type of job that the principal wanted them to do. They could be dependent upon. They understood the school culture, the school climate. They understood the vision, the mission, the core values. And any of you who are working in a school that is a a challenge, it may be a rural school, it may be an urban school that has issues with attendance or issues with their academics, you're going to find that you're going to see these permanent substitutes. So I just can't say enough how important it is for you to be able to recruit and to retain your permanent substitute teachers. I just can't say that enough. So let's look at retaining our highly qualified educators. So how are you going to retain your highly qualified educators? You say, well, how can I do that? I can feed them. I can give them gifts. What can I do? I can give them certificates, say nice things about them. But when we're talking about our teachers, when we're talking about our highly qualified educators, the way that we're going to retain those highly qualified educators is to look at their strength, look at their needs, and as the administrator, build upon those strengths. That's how you keep them. You don't want to leave them on their own, not getting any type of professional development. We want to make sure that we are strategically placing those educators based on student need and teacher strength. So, as I said before, if you have a teacher who is teaching 8th grade social studies, and that teacher is a good teacher, but her academic results are just not showing that she's just great at teaching 8th grade, even though she is fully certified, she has lots of experience, but you see that it's just not happening. Move that teacher down to the 6th grade. You say, wait a minute, how can I move that teacher down to the 6th grade? When I just hired her last year, I let her stay there all year, and now here it is. We're in the ending of the first semester, and it's the beginning of the second semester. Now I'm going to move her to 6th grade. That's exactly what I'm saying. Call her in. And what I always say is build them up before you let them down. Talk about all of the good things. And I mean, be sincere about talking about all the good things that you have observed with this teacher. And then tell her that you think that it's a good idea for you to move her down to 6th grade for this school year. And then build her up, then build him up. That's how you are going to retain your highly qualified educators. The second thing that you need to do in order to retain your highly qualified educators, you should have a strong grade level and content area teams placed. Now, what are grade level and content area teams? Well, your grade level, if you are in elementary school, you have your 2nd grade, 3rd grade team leaders. You have your content area team leaders. You have your math, your science, your social studies, your ELA. You have those team leaders. And you know, sometimes in our schools that are low performing, people end up being team leaders because there's nobody else left to be a team leader. This is the only one who hasn't left. And you have new people in there, or you have a substitute in there. And you still want to retain that highly qualified teacher. And lots of times, I mean, it's, you know, they become team leaders by default. You know that, you see that. And what you have to do is try to strengthen that person the best you can. Make sure that if there's any type of professional development, if there's any type of acknowledgement, make sure you do that acknowledgement. And what I have seen is that when you do that for even your team leaders who are not as strong as they should be, when they see that you are taking that interest in them, they will go the extra mile. And you will see that all of a sudden, you have created a team leader that is strong. I had the example of that of a team leader who asked to go to a conference. And the conference, I believe, was, 2 or 3 days. And we, I signed off. The team looked at it and we signed off. And she went to the conference and she came back with some wonderful ideas about how to do instruction in the classroom. Wait just a minute. Let's see what Anthony is saying. Anthony says that oftentimes teachers don't respect substitutes, so it only stands to reason that the students won't either. Oh, good point. One show of disrespect is when teachers tell students that the work that was done in their absence will not go in the grade book. Students, therefore, do not feel compelled to do the work and subsequently waste class time acting foolishly. Well, that's your example right there. That's your example right there. We're going to have to support our substitute teachers. We can't just take our substitutes for granted. We have to support them. And I mean, it kind of rolls into another topic that we talked about, and that is students don't want to do the work unless they're going to get a grade for it in the grade book. That is just how we have brainwashed our students. That's just the way they do things. And on another issue, what we're talking about is, let's just work on where we can look at students' performance. So if that substitute teacher was able to teach something for the day and they checked for understanding and they found that the children were successful, then everybody will get a good grade for that day, and they can give it to the teacher and it can go into the teacher's grade book. Some students may get grades, a good grade on that day, and they never get a good grade otherwise, from a substitute teacher. So getting back to our content area team leaders. So you want a strong grade level and content area team leader in place. And you do everything you can to get that team leader strong. Because as we said, sometimes you have team leaders who are the only people left in that department, and they just automatically become the team leader because as the principal, because sometimes, we don't do our recruiting like we should. We have times when there's nobody to even interview for those positions. So the only one that's left becomes a team leader. You know that. So that is a way to retain your highly qualified educators. And another thing too, when you strengthen that grade level or that content area team leader, what you find is once you develop them, then they will start to go out and they will start recruiting for you. So when you have your selection process, then the next time it won't be so difficult. You'll have some choices. And the third thing, again, is, what I was saying is have preferred substitutes recruited and retained. Do everything you can, because during this time of COVID, schools are closed, schools are open, schools are face-to-face, schools are online, teachers get sick, students get sick, family members get sick because of the COVID, is what we're talking about. And teachers have worked so hard. They've been challenged like they've never been challenged before. And a lot of them left education. A lot of the teachers who thought that they would stay just a little while longer have decided, oh, this is just an excellent time for me to leave because I just can't take this. And then you have principals who are out trying to find somebody. And who do you have? Your trusty substitute teacher. And I hate to keep harping on this, but I know from my experience, I haven't treated my substitute. I didn't know this. I learned this. How do I learn it? I learned it through my mistakes. That's how I learned it. I learned that I ignored some substitute teachers. I took my substitute teachers for granted when I shouldn't have. But I learned fast. And if you are a quick study, if you're a quick learner, you do the same thing. Those substitute teachers who you honor and respect will go the extra mile. Give them their respect. Give them the support, and they will be there to support you. Especially now. Our children are in the point where there has been a loss of learning. And if you've worked in our low performing schools, our children were already in the gap. Our children already had attendance problems. Now they're behind twice as far. Now we can't find them. We gave them everything. We gave them the tablet to use. We gave them access to Wi-Fi. Then we can't find them. We can't get their butts in the seats. It's hard. Yes, it is. It's hard. But guess what? We're going to learn some things from this situation. Where they say you take a lemon and you make lemonade out of it. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. There are a lot of good things that we learned during this pandemic that we can apply to our teaching in the classrooms that we've never done before. Now our teachers are on the big screen. Everybody can see what they're doing. You can't close the door and say, oh, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to do nothing. No, those days are over. And, and it's time for that. It's time for that. It's time for us to be able to move to another area. If we want our teachers to grow, if we want our teachers to know what it is that they're doing in the classroom that is good and what can be helpful to them to grow, then this is the absolute time. This is the absolute time. So as we close, let's see, we have, again, Anthony says, you were very supportive of me when I worked at your school. You gave me great feedback and instructed me to move around the classroom more, and I have never forgotten it. I have taken the test. However, I'm preparing now to take it the next 30 days. I solicit the prayers of you and others watching. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. So that's a testimony right there. That's a testimony of a brilliant substitute. And I remember Anthony when he was a substitute at our building. And, just little things mean so much. Do I remember telling him to do that? No, I don't. But I just did it because it was the right thing to do. When you see that somebody is interested in working at your school, they're interested in your children, they're not certified, and you don't know why they're not certified. You have no idea. They're working as permanent substitute teachers. They know what they're in for. And they're looking for your support. I mean, I know this is supposed to be a night to be talking about strategies to retain qualified educators, talking about certified and qualified educators. All of our educators are not certified. And you know that old saying, you can be qualified and not certified. And some of our substitute teachers really are qualified and not necessarily certified. So as we close our session for tonight, we're going to do a quick recap, and that is, we talked about smart strategies to retain highly qualified educators. And the first strategy is that we need to move them around based upon the student need and the teacher strength. Put them in the place that they need to be, not necessarily where you had a vacant position. The other way to retain your highly qualified people is the selection should be based on the demonstrated track record, on their student achievement, and also how they're able to work with adults. You have some people who just, they can work all day with the children, but the adults are always just another issue. And what you do there is just target their training and give them opportunities to facilitate, opportunities to present, opportunities to work within a team to get things done. And that's just building your leadership team there. And the third thing, in order to get your teachers to stay that are highly qualified, make sure you have a good practice for recruiting and retaining your substitute teachers. We want to say hello, Ms. Hendricks. Hey, how are you? So that's, if you heard anything here tonight that was good, there's a lot of people who need to hear this who are not hearing this. So hit your share button. Hit your like button. We're on Principals on the Come Up. We're on Facebook Live. We are on YouTube. So we're in all those places. So go to those places, do a like for me, do a share for me, so we can get the word out, because we want nothing but the best for our children. And if nobody can take the time, or people are afraid of their jobs, they know these things and they won't say it, or they don't know these things and keep, doing things backwards, somebody needs to be able to hear this, that share the information, share it on our Facebook group, Principals on the Come Up. We're going to have lots of things going on there. And continue to grow. So we'll see you again next Monday. Principals on the Come Up. We'll see you. Bye.